In this video, we're going to be going over vintage t-shirt blanks. Before we start our analysis, I'm going to tell you some things I looked for when I was purchasing these blanks. So I looked for heavy weight because typically vintage shirts are heavier in weight. That was just the style back then. So I said for me, my parameters were 5.5 ounces and up. And then another big thing was obviously the somewhat oversized fit, but I don't really want the oversized fit. I want the more boxy fit. But you can definitely find a lot of vintage shirts with just oversized fits. Huge thing was the color. I wanted that washed out color, which you're gonna get from the pigment dye process. The pigment dye process is a type of garment dyed where they sew the whole garment together and then they go ahead and dye the garment as one whole piece, versus typically what they do nowadays is they dye the fabric first and then sew it together. With this garment dye process, the whole garment's gonna come in and it's gonna dye differently depending on how the fabric flows into the dye. So a pigment dye is the same as a garment dye. They sew the whole garment and then dip it into the dye. But with a pigment dye, the dye isn't bonded to the fabric. So as you continue to wash and wear the garment, the dye will keep coming off. The dye washes in. Like, it washes out, but it's like washing in the garment. So it just gives it a more vintage effect. So yeah, those are the big things. The big things were weight, color, and then fit, or like silhouette, or whatever you call it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our analysis. So number one, we got the Cotton Heritage OU 1690. You can find these for $8.22 at Blank Style. And I mean, I'm sure you can find it cheaper. You could do a wholesale account with them, which I recommend you getting your seller's permit and getting wholesale. The weight is 5.5 ounces. It's garment dyed. It has a double stitch collar. Has vertical ribbing on the collar. The shoulders are drop shoulders. The length is 30 inches. The width is 22.5 inches. So to me, that's like a little long. That's not fitting that boxy fit. All these measurements are for size large, so we're going off of size large because in general, I'm usually a size large when I buy a shirt. But if you need to know size medium or any other sizes, XL, you can find that on their website. Just do a Google search for the blank and you'll find it. And then the color, I mean, I love the color. These shirts look real clean and classy. The stitching, we have side seams, which in general are marks of higher quality garments. Side seams are just, this shirt has no side seam. A side seam is just a seam that goes down the side. The fabric content, it's 100% organic ring spun cotton. Feels very soft, like the cotton is really tightly spun together, and there's no pilling in this garment. I think this shirt looks great if you size up, and then it fits real well as an oversized shirt, because I think if you go to your actual shirt size, it's too tight. It just doesn't have that width. You know, it has a length of 30 inches and a width of 22.5 inches. To me, that proportion just isn't right. It's way too long. Like, it should be a tall shirt for tall people. But when you size up, I think it fixes that problem. All right, so next is the next level. 7410 inspired by crew, and this I found at $11.84. I mean, I'm sure you can get it cheaper, but that's just a relative price. It weighs 5.4 ounces. It's pigment dyed. The collar is double top stitch. It has the drop shoulders. It's 30 inches long, 22 inches wide. And the color, I mean, the color on these look great. Honestly, love the color. I think they reflect a real vintage shirt. We got side seams on this shirt, and it's 100% combed ring spun cotton. Combed just means, I mean, combed is better than just ring spun. That means they comb the cotton first, so it's straighter and it just produces a better garment, a softer garment. I think this works great as an oversized shirt. Next up, we have Port & Company PC099. This is $8.32 at Shirt Space, 5.5 ounces. Says it's pigment dyed, but garment looks garment dyed besides the gray. The gray definitely looks like it's pigment dyed. Honestly, I love this gray color shirt. I think it's awesome. The collar is single top stitch, but it does not sit right. This is a huge issue with this garment. We see drop shoulders on this garment, and then for this one we don't have a length or width given. It just gives a chest of 41 to 43, and we got 100% ring spun cotton, no side seams, and the garment is really soft. To me, this garment looks like LA Apparel, but just worse. So, I mean, if you guys know LA Apparel, I'm sure you guys, some of you guys do. But if not, the LA Apparel GD1801 is in this video. Next up, we got Comfort Colors 1717. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this brand. This brand is used. It's extremely popular. It's used in the retail space. You can find fast fashion using this as a blank. It's 6.1 ounces, pigment / garment dyed, depending on the colors. So to figure that out, you can go ahead and download their catalog, and they'll tell you the colors that are pigment dyed versus the colors that are garment dyed. We got a double top stitch. We got drop shoulders, a length of 29.375 inches and a width of 22 inches. So to me, I mean, those are pretty good measurements. I think that the garment sits well on the wearer. I think the pepper color does reflect a vintage shirt, but all the other garment dyed colors do not, which is a huge issue. We see no side seam on the shirt. We got a fabric content of 100% ring spun cotton, and this shirt's a little rougher than the others, and you can definitely feel the weight of the garment. So again, this is an extremely popular shirt used by a lot of brands. I would personally avoid this blank just so your brand can have a different brand identity than other brands. Alright, next up we have Shaka Wear Max Heavyweight Garment Dyed. This is, I mean, I bought this shirt for $15 from their retail store. You can sign up for wholesale and get a cheaper price. I just didn't do that because I'm not going to use this shirt. But with that being said, the weight is 7.5 ounces, which is a pretty freaking heavy shirt. All colors are pigment dyed. The colors look great, I think. I think the colors look really good. The collar is double stitched. We got a thick collar. We see drop shoulders, length of 30 inches, width of 20.5 inches. We got no side seams, and then we got 100% US cotton for the fabric content. But I will say this shirt is very rough and tough. Feels very much like heavy duty workwear. But also I think an important side note with this is, I think where this fails in my opinion is that it has is that the garment is too long and not wide enough. But Shaka Wear did just release, I think like 3 weeks ago, a drop shoulder blank. This blank has shorter length, and in my opinion this allows it to reflect the vintage look a lot better than this Max Heavyweight Garment Dye does. But again, that's just the silhouette I want. Also, this shirt is reactive washed. So on top of the pigment dye, what they do is they wash the shirt with these enzymes that eat away the color to make it look even more vintage. Yeah, so that's also something you can look for when searching for vintage blanks. Next up, I think we got a very underrated shirt in my opinion, and this is the ComfortWash GDH 100, 5.5 ounces, garment dyed. We got drop shoulders, but an issue with this garment is the collar does not sit that well on the collarbones. And then we have 42 to 44 inch chest. We're not given the width or length. We have over 30 colors, a lot of color options here, but a lot of these blanks, to be honest, have a lot of color options. No side seams, 100% American grown ring spun cotton, and this garment is very soft and comfortable. So like I said, I mean, I think this one's definitely underrated. I think this is definitely a sleeper. I love this shirt and think it's the epitome of surfwear. I love the fit besides the collar. And this shirt's also washed with enzymes just like the Shaka Wear one was. So we do get that better effect of vintage color through the garment. Alright, so last is the LA Apparel 1801 GD. Now this is this shirt is also just like the Comfort Color shirt. It's also pigment dyed and garment dyed depending on the color you select. So for the pigment or for the garment dyed, it's $860 at wholesale price, and for the pigment dyed it's $960 at wholesale price. This garment weighs 6.5 ounces. It's single stitch collar. The collar is real tight, almost like a mock turtleneck. We got drop shoulders, length of 29.5, width of 23. That width is a bigger width for this list, which I personally like a lot. With the pigment dyed colors such as this vintage black is definitely not actual vintage black. I mean, this is like what the vintage black looks like. It's obviously simulated, but I think it still looks really good. We got no side seams on this. This fabric content is 100% US cotton. Feels just like a normal shirt, not particularly soft or rough, but I think where this shirt truly shines is its silhouette. I think it has fantastic length and width proportions. The drop shoulders look great. It really looks like a boxy shirt in my opinion. It's obviously not a box shirt, but it looks like a boxy shirt. The tight collar I like. I went ahead and cut the color off the vintage black just because I got plenty of these shirts and I wanted to open up the collar on this one. This garment is also washed with enzymes like the Shaka Wear and the ComfortWash. And it's made in LA by workers getting paid living wages. So if that's important to your brand identity, I think that's a huge plus. Alright, on to my recommendations. I think the best blank to use for a fashion startup that wants to be in the vintage/retro niche is the LA Apparel 1801 GD. I just don't think you're beating it, to be honest. First off, it's ethically produced and American made, and it has a great silhouette and great color choices. But also, I think it's important to mention a few other blanks, such as the Cotton Heritage OU 1690. To me, this is a very clean and well put together shirt. I would recommend this for the neo vintage category. You know, not so much caring about the dirt and grime of like, you know, a 2-decade shirt, and more like the accepting of the newer clothing. The neo vintage is what I call it. This shirt definitely stands out from the others in terms of feel and tight knit, as well as just having a very clean aesthetic. I mean, to me, like this is a pretty good looking shirt, man. The Port and Company PC099 and the ComfortWash GDH100 had the collar issues, so maybe you want to just avoid those as blanks. But like I said, I really like the way the ComfortWash shirt fits, but again, the collar issue is kind of a no-go. And Comfort Color 1717 is just too common in my opinion. But other than that, all the other shirts could be used as blanks. They're affordable, they look good, they fit well, and as you keep going, I mean, you'll keep using new blanks and discover what really fits well for your brand identity. And if you don't find any blanks that fit well in the wholesale space, then you can go ahead and manufacture your own, right? I hope this was helpful, and if you'd like, I can review more blanks. Just let me know, leave it in the comments. You know, I can do Rue Porter, I can do original favorites, really any blank. Just love shirts, dude.